Hey, I'm getting ready to read chapter 7 of Trouble According to Humphrey. And last we left off Humphrey, he was in a bit of some problems. Chapter 7 is Test Distress. My whole short life flashed before me. My days at Panorama, Miss Mack bringing me to room 26, the days when Miss Brisbane was out to get me, the day Og arrived, and the faces of all the friends I've helped since I've come to Longfellow School. Help! I squeaked. I heard the muffled voices of Art and Paul. Maybe he's in here. How'd he get out of his cage? I don't know. He just did. Hurry, please, I squeaked before I was hanging from the bridge by one paw and I was getting tired. The cool waters of Lake Patel would have seemed inviting to Og, but hamsters are not especially fond of swimming. In fact, we're desert creatures, a fact I never knew until Richie did a report on hamsters. I hear him, Art shouted. There were sounds of footsteps as Art and Paul rushed into the room. Oh no, the train fell off the bridge again, Art exclaimed. There he is, said Paul. He raced forward and I dropped into his hands as gently as falling into a nice warm of bedding. I must admit, I was quivering and shivering a bit, but I relaxed as Paul stroked me with his finger. It's okay, Humphrey. You're safe now. I looked up and saw Art staring at his train layout. The bridge, the lake, the train cars lying in a heap. I don't understand why it always falls off. And how'd you get the train going in the first place? How'd he get out of his cage? Paul asked. These were not questions I was about to answer. Holding me in his hands, Paul kneeled down to inspect the train layout. Wow, this is awesome. Did you do this all by yourself? Yep, Art sounded proud. And I have lots more I want to do. So that's why you're always dueling. It's really cool. Thanks. About that bridge, said Paul, handing me to Art. It looks okay, Art replied. But every time the cars tumble off the edge, gee, Humphrey could have been hurt. The fall could have killed him, or he could have drowned. He's safe now, Paul reminded him. I'm a loser, Art said quietly. I'm sorry, Humphrey. No problem, I squeaked softly. But it was a problem. I'd been one whisker away from plunging into, yikes, a lake. Believe me, a hamster would should never get wet. Paul got down on his hands and knees and examined the bridge. I think I see the problem. You do? Art knelt down next to Paul. You don't have the same number of each size support on each side. See? They almost look alike, but they're slightly different sizes. Art did. That's weird. It looks even. It's just enough to throw the train off. I'm pretty sure that's the problem. If you measure them, let's get Humphrey back in his cage and we can work on it. You really think we can fix it? Said Art. You can fix it, Paul replied. It's all a matter of measurement. C numbers are always my problem. Art pretended to smack himself in the forehead. They sure aren't just squiggles on paper. I get the point, Art admitted. Can you stay a while longer? Sure, I can stay. Luckily, when the boys put me back in my cage, they brought it into Art's room so I could watch what they were doing. I'll measure the supports and count them to make sure that we have the same number of each. Art got out a ruler and went to work. We'll need 2 of each size, said Paul, and I think you have a problem with the curve over here. I have accidents there all the time, said Art. The turn is too sharp for the length of the engine. We'll need to extend it, said Paul. I'll help you figure out the angle. I crawled into my sleeping hut for a long, nice doze. I woke up and I heard a train whistle. By the time I was out of my hut, the train was climbing toward the bridge. I gulped as it chugged along the top, remembering how high it was when I'd been riding in that cart. Keep your fingers crossed, said Paul, as the train approached the downward slope of the bridge. I must admit, though, I've done some brave things in my short life. I closed my eyes. I couldn't stand the sight of that train plunging off the tracks again. I waited for the crash, but instead I heard the guys cheering. When I opened my eyes, Art and Paul were high-fiving each other. We did it, said Art. Way to go, said Paul. Miss Patel appeared in the doorway smiling. What's going on here? She asked. Paul helped me fix the train, said Art. Art did all the work, said Paul. That's great. But how about the math? We studied for a while, Paul said. I don't quite get it yet. Would you help me some more, Art asked Paul. Sure, Paul quickly replied. Tell you what, I'll call your mom and see if you can stay for dinner, Art's mom suggested. The boys thought it was a great idea. First, maybe you should clean up in here, Miss Patel suggested. Soon, Art's train layout looked neat and the extra track was put away. We better take Humphrey back to the living room, said Art, picking up my cage. Say, how'd he get out of that thing anyway? Asked Paul. Maybe I wasn't paying attention when I closed it, said Art. But it's not the first time. Miranda got in a lot of trouble when Humphrey got out the last time. Might not get to take him home again. Never, ever again? My whiskers wilted when I heard that news. Paul seemingly surprised. Miranda? That doesn't sound right. Let me check that lock. Art put the cage down, and Paul bent over and checked my cage door. I shivered a bit because Paul was one smart kid. He might actually uncover the secret of my lock that doesn't lock. Looks fine to me, he said, and I breathed a sigh of relief. But I only felt relieved for a while. After I was back in the living room and the boys were off studying, I wasn't thinking about trains or numbers or even the fact that I'd narrowly escaped a disastrous accident. I was thinking about Miranda and the trouble I'd caused her. Miss Brisbane had said there would be consequences for her carelessness. Miranda was suffering the consequences, but the carelessness was all mine. And that's where we're going to stop for part one of chapter 7. We'll finish part two tomorrow.